broken down, the foundations of the life of our ruach gives way, and the entire structure of our experience with Abba Yahuwah falls. It is important that we understand that we can't allow our belief to be broken down. Because when our belief is broken down, then that means we're at a point of weakness and we are really most vulnerable at that time. And you have to understand one thing about the enemy. He attacks and he attacks until he finally weakens an area and makes it vulnerable to be penetrated. And so it is important that we always keep our guard up and keep our minds focused and keep our heart set on walking in truth no matter what and no matter who. Once again, it's important that we maintain our consistency and maintain our walk. Very important for us to understand that. Because if we're going to truly show the world that we can stand and that we can outlast pressure and we can outlast the trials and the tribulations, we got to be able to show it and not just talk it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Very important for us to understand that. And it is so. All right. Let us do our declaration for tonight. Repeat with me. We subdue ignorance.
We subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
We arrest hate
We arrest hate
with Torah ahab.
with Torah.
We release Torah truth
We release Torah truth
to the four extremities
to the four extremities
of the earth, where Ibram
where Abraham
reside.
reside.
We declare
We declare
healing,
healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation
and salvation
to the body of
to the body of
Yahusha.
Yahushua.
And it is so.
And it is so.
So, now as we prepare to seal our praise, our prayer, our confession for this portion, and it is so.
And it is so.
Let us bow before our King. Repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. You may be seated in His presence. As we turn our attention to the book of Matthew, chapter 5, as we continue in our lesson, but we move from verses 27 to 30, 29, 30 to 31 on forward. Very interesting. And those of you that would like to know more about it, you can tune into the YouTube channel. And if you follow it, it'll be labeled. It'll be labeled. And it's talking about the belief or the dismantling of erroneous teachings concerning men lusting after women and not just somebody's wife. So, once again, very important that we understand we came through that. And I'm appreciative to Abba Yahuwah for setting the record and the balance straight. Because without balance, there is a what? Imbalance. And unless we maintain balance and unless we truly seek for balance, an imbalance will always try to impose itself upon the balance.
That's right. That's right.
It will always try to come because whenever there's an imbalance will always cause things to be off. But that what is balanced will always give everyone what? A fair chance or a fair judgment. Because we've come to understand, according to the writings, according to the scrolls, Yahuwah Ahab's righteous ruling and upright judgment. And in order for a case or a situation to be judged fairly and the person gets a fair chance, all evidence has to be presented. This is why when people go to court and they hire a lawyer, they hire the best lawyer or defense attorney that they can find. Why? Because they want the best representation. Because they understand that those are the prosecutors that are coming at them, or if they're defending themselves, they want the best people in their corner. Why? Because you need to make sure that you present the right evidence, and that the evidence that is presented will bring a balance to the case to where it will be fairly judged. If the information is not there, then what happens? Then it can't be. But still, people still base their ruling off of whatever information is presented or handed down. Well, we want to make sure that the information that we get, excuse me, is mutually the same, that that information is correct and that it is balanced. Now, you have to understand the Torah is right all by itself, and it does not need us coming in and trying to help it. But what we ought to do is we ought to convey it from the heart and from the mindset or the mentality of Yahuwah.
That's right.
Through Yahushua HaMashiach. This is very important. Why is it important? Because we have so many people, and especially Shaitan, that we desire and have to destroy the foundation and the balance that Yahuwah is bringing into our lives. He is connecting us to the balance. You have to understand the reason why I don't say reconnecting us, because we are that generation that was not connected.
That's right.
But he is connecting us. And so because he is connecting us, it is important that we go back and we set the record straight for the erroneous doctrine and teachings that we have heard throughout the years. And so once again, it's very important for us to understand these things. We're going to look at chapter 5 of Mati Yahu. And we're going to start at verse 30. And we're going to look at verses 30 to 32 for right now. And then we're going to take it further. And it is so.
Mati Yahu chapter 5, verses 30 to 32. Coming from the NIV. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into Sheol. It has been said, anyone who divorces his Isha must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his Isha, except for marital undiligence, causes her to become an adulteress. And anyone who marries the divorced woman commits adultery. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, we're going to bring clarity to these verses. Why? Because for so long we have had these verses misinterpreted and sometimes not interpreted at all, just taken at face value. Well, somebody would say we're supposed to. I agree, absolutely we are. But there are some things that we have to bring clarity to, and we have to make sure that we are understanding what is being said here once again, so that everyone that that's involved in a situation like this will have a fair chance at understanding and being able to interpret what's being said here. Now today, through my studying, I've heard and seen different interpretations of it, but when it's all said and done, the Ruach HaKodesh, she will always give us the truth, because she is our teacher. She helps us to understand the writing. She helps us to understand the voice of Abba Yahuwah. Now, once again, we're going to look at verse 30. And if your right hand offend you, cut it off and cast it from you, for it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into Sheol. Now, it's important that we understand what is being said here. Yahuwah is not talking about dismembering yourself.
That's right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
He is not talking about dismembering yourself, but what he is saying is how we handle or conduct business. Yahusha is not asking people to pluck out their eyes and become blind. He is referring to the right-hand side, which is the strength of the man, strength of the woman as well. He is saying essentially, do not use your strength for unwise actions. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Do not use your strength. Do not use your authority for unwise actions. It's like a king that is wealthy, that can do much wrong with his wealth. Yahushua warns not to do that. This is a Hebraic way of saying it. You would not find any cripples in Yisrael with loss of eye or hand in the first century, hence why it is not talking about literally removing your eye or hand for that matter. But what it is saying is using wisdom with the power and the authority that we possess.
Yes.
Because you have to understand, and I've said it before, I like to coin phrases from different movies. Well, this is the one from Spider-Man, when his uncle Ben was dying. He said, with great power comes great responsibility. Very important for us to understand that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because if you don't understand and you don't discipline yourself with the power that you have, you will find yourself doing things that are not in truth and not acceptable unto Yahuwah.
That's right.
This is why we see so many things that have gone on throughout the world, in different countries when it comes to, and I'm sure everybody has seen Black Panther, which we waited. I know people think, well, why'd y'all wait so long? I wanted to wait till it calmed down so I could see it without the interference of everybody's opinion or their personal views. And I have to say, I enjoyed it. I see some of the reasons why people said what they said, but overall, I enjoyed it to the fullest, and it is one that I would watch again. But one of the things that I realized and that I saw in it is that when you think about power and you think about kings, one of the things that, if you remember when they were in the, what was his name, was in the museum. Killmonger was in the museum, and he was looking at the artifacts, and he was talking, and he told the lady, he said, he was asking her where they get all those things. And he said, and she said, well, we got it from here, and this, and he said, no, and he corrected her. He said, no, that is not where you got that from. He said, you got that from, I have so many names going through my head right now. Where's the place that they're dwelling? Wakanda. I be wanting to say Rwanda. Wakanda. Wakanda. Now you have to understand who went over there and took them all those artifacts. The British. Why? Because they have money and they have what? Power. They misused their power and their money. So they went and they pillaged and they took. And they put it up in museums and charged people thousands of dollars to go in and see that, watch this, that the people they took it from don't benefit from any of it. So once again, this is unwise use of your strength or your abilities. This is what is looked upon as being unwise. Once again, he is referring to the right-hand side, which is the strength. You never overpower somebody for something you won't. You could technically use that as rape, pillaged, stole. Once again, they went in and they took these things, and now they are capitalizing off of it. And Yahushua is telling us as a people, don't you follow suit. Don't you do those things. Don't you dare have strength, and don't you dare use your power and your strength to overpower or take something from somebody that's weaker than you.
That's right.
Or even can match your strength, but you can basically outmaneuver them. Once again, it's important that we understand what is being conveyed here, because we hear time and time again how people come with their sayings and with their interpretations, and because they may have a little more resources and they may have a little more, they feel that they have the right to come in and take, and that is not right. That is not so. Must understand that, because once again, you don't see anybody over there with one eye missing and with the hand missing.
That's right.
Because he's talking about, once again, strength and balance. Balance is what is important. And the enemy's responsibility and his job always is to try to keep us off balance. Because when you basically cause a person to be off balance, you can truly trip them up and you can truly defeat them.
That's
some
right.
people.
That's right.
Truly some people. Because I've seen some stuff, y'all, that blew my mind. There was an Ibram brother that is prosthetic. He doesn't have a prosthetic leg. And he doesn't use one, but he has one leg. And that one leg is strong because it takes up the strength of the other leg. But still, you have to understand, it's still not balanced, because if he ever loses balance, he has nothing to balance him because one of his legs is missing. But I do have to say, I give him kudos because he is doing what a lot of people can't do with two legs.
That's right.
So once again, it's important that we understand these things. Very important for us to understand them. But once again, it's about balance. All right. Excuse me. The lower depths of the earth. You'll find yourself in the lower depths of the earth. Now, verse 31. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his Isha, let him give her a get of divorce. In other words, there was a time, and you have to understand, Yahushua is talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and their coming in and their way of interpreting and their way of handling things. That you just give your Isha a get of divorce. In other words, you give her a bill of divorcement. And basically what ended up happening in that time, you have people divorcing their Ishas over trivial, silly, and situations and issues that could have been dealt with. But because the man felt like, once again, because he had strength and he had authority, that he could just put away his issue for anything. Well, I don't like you no more because you're not pretty enough. I don't like you no more because you gained weight. Well, I don't like you no more because I found somebody else. And so they were putting their wives away for this. Now you have to understand something. And because of this, the issue came about is that when they did this, when they put the issue away, she could not remarry. Now we're going to get into this and we're going to break this down. I'm going to show you the issues here with this. And we're going to bring the clarity. Now, once again, she could not remarry because if he sent her away and divorced her, she couldn't marry because that was basically the proclamation that was decreed. But listen what you said. Once again, now you got to remember all the foolishness. Well, I don't like your cooking. You're disobedient. You won't listen to me. You're not walking in humility. You're not what I wanted. You're fat. You're old. You're not who you used to be. So I'm ready to basically dissolve this covenant. And what happens is now you come into a place to where you have literally brought about a breaking of the trust of this relationship. It doesn't matter. And no, we don't want our spouses to get huge because of health issues or reasons. You don't want to be with somebody. No, nobody wants to be with somebody that does not show you the same kind of affection, but that's still no reason to divorce them. Are you following me? But once again, you have to understand, once again, the surrounding of this and the importance of understanding where this has led many people. Now, once again, nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone that is hurtful with their words or with their actions. Nobody does.
That's right.
Nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody that ignores you. Nobody wants to be in a relationship that no matter what you do, you're constantly struggling and you want to do better, but it's not seeming like it's not registering to the other partner. Nobody wants to be in those things, but once again, these are not grounds for divorce. We have no such thing as unreconcilable differences. Many of us wish there were, but there is no such thing. Are you following me?
Yes.
No such thing. This is important for us to understand. Why is it important for us to understand? Because there is a reason why this was put in place. You have a lot of women out there that were divorced and that were basically abandoned because their husbands felt like it says I can divorce you. So I can get rid of you. Doesn't matter why. And this is wrong.
Right.
The basis of it is in verse 32. But he says, but I say to you that whosoever shall put away his wife or give her a writ of divorce, unless for the cause of whoring. In other words, if you can find probable cause that your Isha, even your Ish, has committed adultery on you, has been in an affair, 1 time, 2 times, however many, this is the only way that this decree or that a divorce or a putting away is legal. Because what happens is, and watch this, comma, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her shall also commit adultery. Now you have to understand the basis for that. Now somebody would say, but what if he just puts me away and he has no reason except I may have gained a few pounds, or maybe he says I'm ugly now and I'm not doing what he wants me to do and I'm not walking in that way. Well, first and foremost, he legally cannot. She legally cannot do that. Because unless there is a reason. Now let's go over some of the reasons. After you come into this covenant agreement, on your night that you prepare to consummate your relationship, you find out afterwards that she or he was not a virgin. Those are the grounds, according to Torah, for divorce. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Or that she played the harlot and she lied and didn't tell you before you and her or he and you made this covenant agreement. These are only the grounds that can be used for divorce and annulling a relationship. Now listen what it says. Unless for the cause of whoring causes her to commit adultery. How does this cause a person to commit adultery? If you put a person away, now watch this, and that person is innocent and has not done anything, well, that person, once again, is not liable, now listen to what I'm saying, to be caused or put in a position to be judged as an adulterer if they remarry. Now somebody said, but what is it saying? You have to understand the cause of divorce on either side is whoring. The reason why a person, and it says, unless for the cause of whoring, causes her to commit adultery. If this individual, which has already been in a situation, committed adultery, and that person is put away and you marry her or him, you now commit adultery. Why? Because the reason or the essence for the divorce is because of their violation of their vow and their commitment to be with them and only them.
That's right.
Y'all hearing me?
Yes.
That is why it says for the cause of whoring causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her shall commit adultery too. Why? Because this individual was dismissed because they were already an adulterer. And if you walk behind them and pick up what they lose because of default, you fall in default as well. But a person that is put away because this individual says, I'm tired, I don't want to be with you no more, and you're ugly, you don't make me happy no more, and you have fought to try to maintain this relationship, and you have done all that you know to do, and yet they take you to court and divorce you and say you can go on and be with whoever you want. Guess what? You are free. You're free. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You're free. But you have to understand that which follows it. You cannot just walk away once again because you don't like the situation, because you do not believe that there's any room for reconciliation, because everything that may have been done still causes a bad taste in your mouth. That's still, you can't divorce that person. Now somebody will say, well, I got to be with this person and be miserable. If that's what you want to call it, I'm not putting no words in your mouth, and don't put words in mine. But what I am saying is that when it is all said and done, the bottom line is, unless there is a cause and it has to do with sexual, or once again, somebody's beating you, Now, even though that's not put in there, we understand that Yahuwah never gave credence or gave a right for anybody to beat on anybody.
That's right.
Nowhere does it say in the writing that a man has a right to put his hands on his isha or the isha on her ish. Once again, this is where reconciliation, excuse me, takes part. And are you willing to fight? And it takes both of the individuals in the relationship to fight to make it work and to make it better. That's something that you have to want to do. But once again, with everything that I presented, well, I'm not happy. You still can't divorce. Well, I feel like, we come to it because you can't. And you better not go out and commit adultery, because if you commit adultery, nobody can marry you. Because now the reason for the divorce is because you defaulted on the relationship.
That's right.
Somebody says, well, if he walks away from me and he don't want to reconcile with me and I can't be with him and he don't want to be with me, that means I got to stay by myself. Absolutely not. Because this person left you and pushed you away. That's why you're innocent and you are not going to be treated as though you're guilty. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
In other words, if this person commits adultery and the person they're with says, I caught them in adultery, I found that they are an adulterer or an adulteress, and I want a divorce because they have defaulted on our relationship, and because they have broken the vow, I don't want to reconcile, I want a divorce. Well, because it's in default, they can divorce. But nobody can marry that individual because adultery yet remains over their head. And anybody that marries them now is an adulterer because you come in their folly. Because the question, once again, we have to look at, or the scenario is that if adultery was never committed, would there have been a reason for divorce? No. Once again, no matter how we feel, this is why it's important that we fast and we pray. And this is why I always say, give yourself time. Get to know the person that you are talking about being a hob with. Get to know that person, walk with that person, talk with that person. Because when you in it, you in it. The only thing that can bring you out of it is death. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And even in the Talmud, reading in that, many of them wanted to say that if the man died, that the woman still could not remarry because she still, even in death, belonged to him. And they said, no, this is not going to be no. Because now you're still trying to make her stay in a position, or you're trying to bind her up, and you go. There's some crazy people out here. I'm just being real.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But once again, we have to look at what Yahusha says. He said, he shall put away his Isha unless for the cause of whoring, causes her to commit adultery. Once again, and whosoever shall marry her shall be an adulterer. Are y'all following me?
Yes. Yes.
Now, once again, let's understand. Him putting her away is not the cause of her adultery. The cause of the adultery is that she was already walking as an adulterer. So if he put her away, it has to be a valid reason. And it can only be through whoring and adultery. Once again, if he found himself on the night of finding out that she had been married before, that she had been in a relationship before, she lied about being a virgin, these are grounds that he could say, you lied to me. You breached the covenant because you assured me and told me that you were a virgin and that you had never been with anybody. Because that's a lie. You know, many people say, well, they can get through that. Well, once again, you don't lie when you get in a relationship.
That's right.
Because there's a person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. So it's important that you understand that you talk and you be clear. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because once again, those are grounds for divorcement on Norman. And people say, but he should have known that. If a person lies to you, you're basically marrying them under false pretense.
That's right.
And so this is what Yahusha is saying. In other words, he's saying, well, I put away because she can't cook. Now, if she go remarry, she's committed adultery. No. If he put her away for nonsense, which he really can't, and he says, I don't want her, this is an agreement, she can go and be with whoever she wants to because I don't want her no more, she's free of that relationship. And she can go on with her life, and so can he. But you have to understand that individual has to do it. You can't do it. Are you following me? Yes. Only way you can divorce or walk away from somebody is through them whoring. Now, once again, you have to understand, a lot of time people say, well, if it's polygamy, he can't commit adultery. But once again, you have to understand he's not going to just put that on the shoulders of the woman and then let the man go free.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes. Because
still there will be an imbalance. So once again, it's very important that we do not fall in ignorance to this. And this has caused many people to have many second thoughts about marriage and relationships. Because people don't want to get with somebody that's going to run all over them and just feel like, well, you know, I have no voice. But once again, you have to understand, Yahuwah is not unfair. He is a savior that believes and follows in justice because he is justice.
Yes, that's right.
And so it's important that we understand these things. Very important that we understand so that we do not be caught up in these things. Once again, you don't want to be fraudulent. I don't care who you are. Never go into a relationship being fraudulent. Never go into a relationship lying. Never. Because in the event you do, you have just destroyed the fabric that will make the trust in your relationship work and hold you together. Nobody wants to be lied to. It takes a long time for a person to deal with a person that lies to them, to be able to move forward. Because you betrayed a person's trust.
That's right.
And nobody wants to be betrayed. I hope you don't.
Right.
Nobody does. So once again, understanding what is said here. Now there's another rendering, and it reads like this. It has been said, anyone who divorces his Isha must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his Isha except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Once again, you have to understand the reason why this person commits adultery is because this person is an adulterer. A person that is forced out of a relationship, regardless of how you go kicking and scratching and saying, I don't want it, don't leave me, I want to be with you. If that person does that, you have to remember, you are the innocent one in this, not them. And Yahuwah is not going to hold you accountable to a life that a person does not want to have with you. That's important for us to understand. But for so long, we have made this verse as though if he puts a woman away, he slept with one time, and he could go on and do whatever he wants, but she's the adulterer if she remarries, and she did nothing to cause him to divorce her. So she has to live a life secluded, a celibate life, because he decided in his heart and mind that he didn't want the relationship. No, that's not how this works. Once again, he said he shall put her away unless for the cause of whoring. Understanding in depth what that means. And I'm driving this home so those who come back and watch it will understand we need to make sure we do this thing right. Because you have a lot of women out there that are single and afraid, and a lot of men out there because they were forced out of relationships that they had no control of, and now they are demanded because of erroneous teaching to be committed to a person that has moved on with their life. You're committed to somebody that's married, but they're in adultery because they did it out of foolishness. And now you are in a situation to where you cannot be married. Once again, We have at some point all looked at this and judged it wrong. At some point. Because we believe that the woman that is innocent is still an adulterer if she's put out of the relationship and he goes on with his life. But once again, the reason, and this is why he told him, you're not going to be divorcing them for just any old reason. If you can't find just cause because she was whoring, because she lied about being in a relationship before she married you, you cannot divorce her. You better make it work. Now, the person that marries the adulterer is now himself an adulterer. Because if it had not been for adultery, he had no legal right to dismiss her. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is the way this is supposed to be judged. Not where she threw him out the relationship, he threw her out the relationship, and no matter what he did to try to get back, she don't want him, so he can't be with nobody, but this person goes on. No. Misinterpretation of the writings. But the thing of it is that reconciliation. Now somebody says, what if they commit adultery and it doesn't go that way? They don't want a divorce. I don't want a divorce. We want to work it out. Work through it. Work it out. Work through it. Work it out. If you're willing to work it out and y'all willing to do what it takes, work it out. But we got to understand that Yahuwah is a just Savior.
That's right.
And once again, this is, you got to look at, this is stemmed from erroneous teachings from years, because it always places the blunt of it on the woman. The reason he causes one, and then look, it says, and causes her to commit adultery. Does it cause her to commit adultery? Because she's already committed adultery. So when he divorces her and pushes her out there, if she marries somebody else and they don't know it, they commit adultery. Are y'all following?
Yes.
Once again, this is why. Let's look at it again. Shall put away his issue, comma, unless for the cause of whoring, comma, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her commits adultery. Causes her to commit adultery. Why? Because when he let her go, she was already an adulterer. Are you following?
Yes.
Once again, we have to understand, because when you divorce a person, they cannot go out there. And once again, if you just throw a person out there and they're the innocent one, they are not going to suffer because of the person that has done wrong. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, we have to understand that. Now, so once again, we see even in Christianity that many people have done this thing. And remember, Yahuwah said, I allowed it to be because of the what? Hardness of their hearts. Because of the way they were doing the women. They were very mean. They were harsh. So once again, it's about interpretation. Interpreting the writings right, so that, once again, all evidence is presented and it will be judged accordingly. And you don't have to worry about an imbalance. When there is an imbalance, it causes things to be off. Because now you have more single women than you have men. And it ain't just because, once again, I said, well, there'll be 5 women to 1 man and all that. Once again, we understand the reason because of the time and because of the war that was going on. But in time now, you see a reason why a lot of women are not. And it just depends on the man and at his discretion, if he desires to marry a young lady that already has a child. Are you following me? Already has children. That's at his discretion. If he chooses to, that's his choice. If he chooses not to, once again, that's his choice. We have to pay for our actions. The consequences, the actions of our life bring about consequences. And all the time, they're not great ones. And so you have to pay for those. Once again, it's important that we understand balance. Balance. So if you marry her who is divorced, and why is she divorced? Because of adultery. If he divorces her for any other reason, You can't heap the two up in the same pot. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because once again, if we do that, you have young ladies that were put away wrongfully, and now they have to basically become like nuns. But you can't make me believe, once again, that that's the will of Yahuwah. I don't believe that at all. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, once again, marrying her that is divorced commits adultery. All right. Now we understand that, right?
Yes.
All right. Now let us look at this. Once again, it's a lot of people that interpret it in different manners, and um, because you have to understand, marriage is a covenant for what? Life. And that's why I say you have to get in it with don't go in it unadvised. And that's the truth.
That's right.
Nobody should ever go into marriage unadvised. Because this is a person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. Good, bad, ugly, indifference, weight gain, weight loss, in sickness and in health. This is the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. Are you following me? Great days, bad days, high days, low days, level days, no days, no days, no days. Are you following me? You have to understand that. And this is why you have to really, once again, make sure that the person you're going to get in a relationship, covenant with, is a person you're going to work to make it work. Even if it seems like you're doing all the work, you still got to stay there. And that's true.
That's right.
I know a lot of times people don't like to hear that because it does feel unfair. If you feel like you're doing all the work and the next person, your spouse, is not. But it is what it is. And it is so.
It is so.
All right. Now, verse, let's look at 33. (34) and 35. Let's look at those three verses.
And listen. Matthew chapter 5, verses 33 to 34. Coming from the NIV scriptures. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but keep the oaths you have made to Yahuwah. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by Shemayim, for it is Yahuwah's throne. And it is so.
And it is so. All right. Again, you have heard that it was said by them of ancient times that you shall not swear falsely, but perform your oaths to Yahuwah. Once again, it's important that we understand whatever vow we make, whatever oath we make unto our Yahuwah, that we dare not defraud it. He said, but I say to you, swear not falsely at all, neither by Shemayim, for it is Yahuwah's throne. This is why, once again, he was telling them that, because if you swear by something that's false, you don't have to keep your oath. You don't have to keep your commitment. This is why he said, no, if you're going to swear by my name. And if you do so, you better not break it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand, because once again, we say, but we ain't supposed to swear and we ain't supposed to use Yahuwah's name. In the writings, it tells us. And Debiram chapter 6, verses 1 through 18, when you look in there, and he tells us, he said, the only name that you're supposed to swear by is the name of Yahuwah. No other name. Because when you put his name in it, that basically says, this right here is the seal that I'm not going to break it. And that's why we cannot just go around saying and doing anything and put his name in it. Once again, that's why he said don't do it falsely. Falsely means I'm going to put something up there that has no merit and that has no authority and power in this. So I can break it if I choose to. Nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Once again, he's giving us an example that do not put yourself in that position. If you make a vow, make the vow, and do not defer to pay it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that, because sometimes people make commitments and make vows, and you have to understand, when you put your word on it, your word is a vow. When you say, I'm not going to do it no more, I promise, that's your word. And when you break your word and break your promise, you have to understand that right there shows you're not loyal and your word can't be trusted. Are you following me? This is important. This is another thing that not only damages relationships, but it damages our relationship with Yahuwah. Because your word is your bond. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. All right. But let your communication be yes, yes, no, no, for whatever is more than these comes from deceit. Now, somebody would say, but if he said that we can't, once again, you have to understand we don't do things like the world does. Only if your heart is deceitful will you lie in the name of an object. Are you understanding?
Yes.
You're going to lie in the name of an object. Because you know you ain't going to do it. So once again, if your heart is not full of deceit, you're going to do what you have to do. And you're going to maintain what you say. You have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you that you resist not an evildoer. But whosoever shall strike you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Once again, this has been another one that has been erroneously misinterpreted. Why? Because we believe that we are supposed to fight everybody. Now, I ain't saying you ain't supposed to defend yourself, but there's a time for defending ourselves. And this is not speaking of laying hands on folks. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
This is not that. This is dealing with something else. It is not saying to blind someone, but setting correct punishment models by Torah-based judgments or judges in Yisrael. Once again, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. In other words, it has to be compatible. You know how you say, you kill my dog, I'm not gonna kill your cat, I'm gonna burn up your car. You know that's extreme. That's going overboard because that was an animal, which you don't kill nobody's animal. You know, you flatten my tire, I burn down your house. Are you following?
Yes.
You mess with what's mine, then I come and I kill all yours. We're talking about equality. We're talking about what? Natural balance. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Natural balance. Because when there's a natural balance, everything will remain in balance and intact. In other words, if you cut my pinky off because I steal from you, then you steal from me, then I cut your pinky off. I don't cut your hand off. It has to be balanced. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Has to maintain the balance. All right. Let's look at this again. All right. Now, let us look at, all right, now we're going to look at this. And I really enjoyed looking at the footnote for this one once again, because we get the misinterpretation of this verse. Verse 39. But I say to you that you resist not an evildoer. Resist not an evildoer. But whosoever shall strike you on the right cheek, turn him the other side also. Now, once again, this is not talking about physical. The Torah commands us to withstand evil and oppose it. However, the situation is different. This is about the evil intention of a person centered on a personal argument between two people and not about defending country and esteem. Are you following me?
Yes.
By this illustration, we are shown not to prolong the argument or throw accusatory words against each other and making it even worse. Accusatory, right?
Yes.
Accusatory words. Thank you. Against each other and making it even worse. We are taught humility by letting the other person win the argument. And the next part of the verse mentioned is being slapped by the right hand, which is the side of judgment or wrath. This is in reference to a reverse hand slap on the right cheek using the back of the right hand. The right side is the side of strength. This shows us that the whole verse is paraphrased around two people arguing, and the slap is not a literal slap, but insulting remarks that the evil intended person makes against us. In other words, let them talk, let them say whatever they're going to say. We are to allow him room for both side, left and left side slaps, meaning insult, the onslaught of an angry man or woman who is mean to you and swears at you. Most people will retort or will resort, but we are commanded not to, but to allow the person to vent his or her anger against us. Why? It mentions the right side first, and then the left side is just to show us that this person is not balanced in his approach, and he is certainly not following the Torah. He represents those from the nations out of balance and who get angry for no reason. Once again, very important for us to understand. It's not talking about, just letting somebody slap you in the face and walk all over you. No, this is talking about an argument that starts with insults. Well, you are fat. Well, you're black. Well, you're ugly. You have no hair. You have no integrity. You have no savvy. You are scum of the earth. You are nobody. Nobody wants you. Nobody likes you. Are you following me?
Yes.
Y'all are nothing but this. You're nothing but that. You have to understand when those insults, and just keep on going. Why? Because when it's all said and done, this is showing you are. Now, once again, it takes humility. Because nobody wants to be talked about. Nobody wants to be referred as a nobody, and nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to be referred to that. Nobody wants to be referred to as a dummy. Stupid. Are you following me?
Yes.
No brains. Poop for brains. You're just ignorant. You're just dumb. You're just stupid. Are you following me?
Yes.
Nobody wants to be referred to that. But in the event of an argument and these things are hurled at us, the only thing we are supposed to do is say, okay, now since you found that side, come on, take this side too, because I find you're imbalanced. You just all over the place. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because you're angry with yourself. Verse 44, but I say to you, ahab your enemies, and pray for them which carry you away by force and persecute you. Now, once again, this is why a lot of people do not like and do not esteem the Brit Hadashah, because they believe that this was erroneously written, because now esteem the Brit Hadashah, because they believe that this was erroneously written,